Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the second part in our four-part series for leaders about growth. This part is talking about sustainable growth, a pragmatic approach. We are very, very lucky enough to have Kathleen Gunther here, who is a marketing and strategic guru from her consultancy called Gunther Consultancy. And she's going to talk to us about how to grow, sustain, and the approach that she sees is the best way to continually grow your agency. I will hand over to her to take the reins now of the presentation, and I believe there's some interaction involved or some polls today in some capacity, so she'll explain that. But Kathleen, over to you.
Thank you, Sam, and hi, everybody. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm really excited to be here today. First thing I'm going to do, I don't have a slide for it, but I am going to acknowledge the First Nations people and the land that I'm on in the Wurundjeri land, and my connection to country here. I'm in St Kilda East in Melbourne. I've got a beautiful, what I would call a bit of I live in a bit of a terrarium sort of. I've got a beautiful green garden around me. And I have a beautiful dog with me all the time, which is my connection into land and country, because she gets me out and about all the time, and my community here is wonderful. So I just thought I'd start off with that. So once again, thanks for having me, the opportunity. So what I'm going to take you through, I'm going to, without further ado, we'll just flick on through. Hang on, I just need to use, am I sliding through? No. First technical error, it's not. Hang on, bear with me. Come on. Here we go. Can you see that agenda? Yes, someone give me a thumbs up. Yep, thank you, Sam. Okay, so we're going to, I don't know if you guys like this show, but I was besotted by Severance. So I thought that was a pretty good start. So we're going to take you through a bit of an introduction. I'm going to ask you guys all what your marketing maturity is, and you know, it's kind of a bit of a weird situation when you do marketing for marketing agencies, media agencies, obviously, you know, specifically, but you know, we all have different levels of where we're at. I'm going to give you a business case for consistent marketing, and a pragmatic content framework, implementation roadmap, and some, you know, common pitfalls and how to get around them. So without further ado, who am I? I'm Kathleen. I am a dog mama, as I mentioned before. I've always been a bit of a crazy dog lady. I talk to every dog on the street. Meet Bowie, she's the love of my life. She's sitting over there in the corner. So if at one stage I have to run off and tell her to shush, you know what that's about. Music is my muse. I moved to Melbourne about 5 years ago. In COVID, that's another whole story. And so if you like music and you live in Melbourne, you'll likely see me out and about at a gig. It's my life. It's why one of the main reasons I moved here. And it was like, when I moved here, it was like putting on an old pair of jeans. I love it here. It's a very welcoming, beautiful city. Nature and hiking is also one of my passions, and I love all things green, as you can tell. So my brand pillars, and why I think this is important, is to, you know, give you context for guiding your own brand. So one of my key things that I mean, if you've read Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point, I am the ultimate connector. Help connect people to stories, to suppliers, to brands, to their own story, to their own brand story. So that's me. I have adaptable expertise. I've got a wide range of marketing, media, and production skills. And I've been in media agencies. It was kind of where I cut my teeth into media and marketing. I started off at Social Soup. That took me over to New Zealand, where I ended up heading up Omnicom as the head of mobile. So very much a digital marketer, a digital media person. I get where you guys are coming from. It was planning. I was a business director, then at a creative agency, but launching and looking after media. So I've always been in senior roles in agencies, trying to grow the agency. So I've got lots of experience in agency land. And then my last role was as marketing director for Icon Agency, who's a fully integrated digital, actually leading more with like digital and PR. So And then I went out on my own. I have been doing for the last 6 months and last 8 months now. And I do marketing for marketing agencies. So that's why I'm here today. The whole thing for me is around pragmatism. So you can only do so much, and you only get so much time. There's so much you have to concentrate on billable work. So I'm going to give you some tips of some efficient ways of where you can embed this into your DNA. Okay, so key insight. Now this is anecdotal, and I wanted to do a bit of a poll, which we can get to talk about the percentage of independent media agencies that actually have dedicated in-house. So it's usually around sort of 15 to 20%, so not a lot, which basically means that you are doing this yourself. So anecdotally, that means if you're doing it yourself, who does the work, and is it tracked, and is it measured? Most importantly. So I'm just going to, so this is a bit of a poll, and use your chat. I'd really love to know from you guys, do you have a dedicated marketing, because this is anecdotal obviously, and a dedicated marketing person, or do you have a freelancer that comes in and helps, or do you manage all of this yourselves? If you can just drop in the chat so I can have a quick look, that would be great. Let's have a look. And excuse, I have to tell everyone, please excuse that there was a previous poll before, and we were just tried to get rid of it. So if you can just drop in, if you do your marketing yourself, or if you have someone else, self. Yep. Okay. Thank you, David. No dedicate, just solo. Yep. Okay. Self. Yep. Okay. Because I assume if you had a marketing person, it probably wouldn't be here. But then most people still always want to learn more. So, okay, I was right about that. So that's good. Okay. Sorry, bear with me. I'll just go back to the call. And okay. So moving right along. Click. Sorry, just got to go back to the call. Oh, here we go. Yep. Sorry. Okay. Okay. So the maturity model. So there's three different levels of sophistication with agencies marketing. There's the strategic level, which uses your CRM, associated MarTech tools, consistent, and you have a consistent and you use your content calendar. You have a content calendar that you actually use, a robust website for discovery. It's optimized, SEO optimized, and you use your data-led insights. So that's your ideal of where you want to get to. The mid-level has some of those bits and pieces, but they may have a CRM or you might not, but you haven't really got the adoption or know how to use it. There's inconsistent content, and you haven't really got your pillars sorted out and who you are and what you want to be known for. And then you're not really optimizing any of the work that you do on based on data-led insights. Last of all, there's the reactive level, which is like, what the F is marketing? It's too hard. You're permanently reactive. You have no plan, rely purely on relationships, and you're kind of running around in circles like a, chook with your head cut off, or a bit of whack-a-mole. Now, we've all been there at some stage, and we get like that sometimes, but I'm here to give you some tips on how to avoid being that. So I'd love to know back in the chat again, just so I understand where you sit on this scale. Are you strategic? Are you reactive? Are you mid-level? And the only reason I want to know is just so how I could pitch the rest of this presentation and talk to you about some of the key things in here. Please use the chat again and just let me know out of that what, and there's no shame here. Mid-level, oh, good, mid-level. No shame, I just need to know. Reactive, okay, so mostly mid-level. Okay, cool. All right, for mostly mid-level, that's good. I sort of know where we're at. Unreal, thank you guys. Okay, back to this. Okay, so most of you oscillate between those levels depending on your pipeline, which, as you all know, is where it gets a little bit hectic. So how to prevent the leads slipping through the cracks, and most importantly, elements of marketing actually running well. So the business case for consistent marketing, apparently, so according to HubSpot, Salesforce, and other bits and pieces of research I found, it's around 8 to 12 meaningful touch points required. And most of you, I'm telling you to suck eggs because this is marketing for marketing agencies, but good to sort of go back to it to realize it takes a bit of time and multiple touch points. So the marketing really is key in this. Those touch points can come from a response to an initial form fill. If you have a CRM, and a welcome and a thank you, we'll get back to you, email, through to the discovery through your website, something they find on social, or brand mentions in market. There's also apparently 40%, and this is a number specifically for independent media agencies. It's estimated that approximately 40% of B2B clients just often give up. You'd know this yourself with your clients. I know this myself. People ghost you. You've been having long conversations with them, and then you might all of a sudden hear from them in 6 months' time again. So it's around 3 to 6 months from when they first encounter you. But in the same way you guys build robust, full funnel paid campaigns for your clients, it's really important that you do the same thing for yourself. But interestingly, the way agency marketing works, it works mostly in that top zone of awareness and consideration, but I'll take you through that in a second. So yeah, 3 to 6 months from they first encounter you is really how long it takes, and you know that from your own sales cycle. So most of the interactions with this funnel come in with agencies actually through brand building, through your owned, shared and earned channels. Your content marketing is important, but in agency land, people buy people. So it's really, really important that you have your awareness out there, and that those consideration little bits of content are, optimized and in the right shape. So I'll take you through some of what those are at the moment, but PR brand mentions to support your SEO, optimize web content with case studies, blogs, opinion pieces, research and other capabilities, social, of course, partnerships in content or delivery, email if you're sophisticated enough to have email and your CRM connected, events, both hosting and attending. And so, as I mentioned, while paid plays a role, usually search is kind of a very small part of the conversion, and obviously there's intent there. But it's really the rest of the marketing mix, and nothing works in isolation. So it's really it's around that brand authority. But don't just believe me. This is an old colleague of mine who's now the CEO of the Diggers Club. The Diggers Club is a gardening horticulture membership organisation. They've got about 80,000 members across Australia, born in Victoria. And as I'll just repeat what Fee said, because agency case studies are vital. So this is what's important to her as a client. Agency case studies are vital in those early stages, along with industry insights and thought leadership. I leverage agencies for expertise we don't have in-house, and I value being challenged with fresh perspectives rather than simply having my brief echoed back to me. Beyond intelligence, cultural alignment is essential. Once again, coming back to that people by people. People ultimately connect with people, so I need them to understand how agencies position themselves in the world around them. So more on that in a second. Now, I'm going to go straight into a slide that might be a little bit jarring, but at the end of the day, we need to spend money to make money. So I'm just kind of doing a bit of a setup before I take you through the framework. Now, you guys might have your own customer acquisition cost calculator. I have one. I can share it with you. I can work through this with you. This is a very basic look at, I'm making a few guesstimates here. Profit margins around 15%. But essentially, if you want to make money and you want to grow, you do need to spend and invest some money into marketing. Now, that could be just investing into the right CRM and getting some freelance help when it comes to copywriting, or when it comes to design, or when it comes to the strategy, or maybe it's actually carving out some of that profit margin so that you could actually use that within and dedicate someone to do that. So this is just a calculator that in case, I'm sure you use this for your own clients as well, but it's really important when you are looking at your marketing that you understand that it will pay itself back. So yeah, essentially step one, what's your annual client acquisition rate with your marketing spend? What's your target increase? So are you going to add a couple of clients? In this case, I've put 5 clients on. What's your average client annual fees? $120,000. What's your average profit margin? 15%, I don't know with you guys, it could be less or more. And what's your average client retention period? So, if it's 2 years, amazing. If you've never spent any money and all of a sudden you spend $60,000 on marketing to cover your CRM, a little bit of freelance help here and there, and clean up, maybe do an SEO audit and a few other bits and pieces, then you can look at a payback period of around about 6 months. So that's an excellent ROI. That's a 3-to-1 ratio. So these are the things you need to actually really look at when you're doing your marketing, so that you actually are planning ahead. So the pragmatic content framework, how does this work? There are 3 main pillars when it comes to agency marketing. Now, these are very overarching and rudimentary. You obviously need to narrow down exactly what you need to be, that you want to be known for. But essentially, it's the work. Most people want to know what work you're doing, what your culture, who you are, and then how you show up in the world, the community and industry. I just heard Sam talking about the Cans and Cans, and I've seen a lot of chat on LinkedIn, and a lot of people just saying what an amazing world-class event that was. For me personally, I'm on the board of the Australian Web Industry Association. We just had our event on our annual awards on Saturday night. On Friday night, we had a networking drinks. And I got to meet all my board members, which was really wonderful. The whole community is really amazing and really supportive. And that's obviously all pro bono for me. But it's how I show up in the world. It's how I give back. I redid their social strategy for them, and we had record numbers this year, which is really satisfying for me. And the event just keeps getting better and better. It's a great community. So by authentically showing up for who I am and what I actually represent in market, it's very easy to then reshare it, and it becomes content for you as well. It's not why you do it, but it's also a benefit of what you're doing there. So the channels for agency marketing, and you got to remember we are B2B. What I see a lot of agencies doing and making the mistake of is they give their socials, it sort of becomes thought leadership, and I might do the odd PR release or for when there's changes in the agency, and then otherwise it's the juniors do the social, or you try and do it all, and it's a bit haphazard. With getting just the juniors to do the social, often they use it like it's their own channel, and it's a bit kind of it's B2C. It's that B2C, and it's not really how your busy marketing executive is using social, right? It needs to be, clear, concise, only talk when yes, the algorithms want you to post. LinkedIn keeps sending you a message saying, if you post 4 times a week, then you're going to, sure. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that what you have to say is actually worth reading, and it's representing your brand in the best way possible. So, I'm not actually all about just posting for this. I'm not about quantity. I'm an agency marketing should all be about quality. So the channels the main channels that you use are earned, and I'll get to how important how important earned is for you if you haven't done it before, just how important it is. Those opinion pieces that get printed, earned is great for SEO. It's got those brand mentions. It relates back up to those however many touch points. It helps with word of mouth, all of those bits and pieces. Awards are key, as you would know. Client testimonials, which are really important. If you can get into podcast appearances, your website and from an own perspective is key. Blogs, case studies, culture about. And it's not just about blogs to use for content marketing to get it out there and put a lot of paid behind it and for it to kind of, spray and pray. That is not the approach when it comes to marketing for agencies. Your EDM, if you're sophisticated enough to have one, and you've got you've got actually information that people want to read, and events, webinars, podcasts, and those shared content partnerships, social, Once again, co-hosted events and webinars, industry and community participation, as I said, referrals, your clutch, your digital agency network, and other agency partnerships, because it takes a village. We all work together. We all have to work together. So if your creative agency is putting in an award, that should actually cover both of you guys, and you should make sure that you're having these conversations early. But I'll get to that framework on how you get there. First of all, I want to give you a best-in-class example. And I know you guys, some of you might be like going, oh, Tinkerbell, again, it's Adam and it's Margie and it's Dan now. But I'm done with tall poppy in this country. I think we should all celebrate each other and how wonderful we all are. And we've got an amazing example with Tinkerbell. So I'm going to share what they do. Just so you know, I have gone to them and asked if I can share this. So so I don't end up in court. Sam, I've already checked with them. I've gone straight to Margie. So their purpose is around unleashing measured magic into the world to keep things interesting. I'm sure you've seen this. Their positioning around their measured magic is where marketing and science meets hardcore creativity, underpins everything that we do. We practice measured magic to drive brand-led business transformation and change consumer behavior. Thinkers and tinkers deliver magic, measured magic. Our four-leaf clover guides measured magic, and our alchemy model makes measured magic happen. Sounds a lot, but if you've ever seen anything they do in market, you 100% understand that it all ladders back up to that. So what are those content pillars that they have? So their content pillars are measured magic, as I said, where marketing science meets hardcore creativity, the behavioral science in marketing, which you definitely would see in a lot of what they do. And I'll take you through some examples in a second. Applying an application of behavioral economics and psychology to marketing challenges on consumer behavior and decision-making, cultural relevance and conversation creation. So tapping into what's the news cycle, cultural moments and identity. How do they do that? And they do that very well. And then challenging category conventions and brand complacency. So being a little bit left of center if they're thinking, they like to poke the bear a little bit, and it works for them. So here's a great best-in-class example. This was from yesterday or a couple of days ago. Their first employee has left to another role, and they did a couple of press releases that got picked up around Tinkerbell rebranding as O'Leary Bell in their last-ditch attempt to retain a first employee. Once again, that goes to that left of centre, ladder straight back up to their little bit left of centre, and trying to tap into cultural moments as well. When they share their awards, they share, they basically, so awards is part of an earned strategy because you're getting recognition. So this is another great example of when they share this. Actually, this is the gift. Their PR awards, they've won 3, or they've been nominated for 2 or 3. So you don't have to win an award. If you get nominated, you need to let people know about it. But I'll give you some tactics a little bit further down the line of how to manage that so it doesn't sort of become a reactive thing. And they use earned really well for all of their work, so all of their campaign work. So coming back to what we talked about before, is the 3 key things that people care about when it comes to agencies: the work, which work is insights and things as well, and expertise, the work, your culture, how you show up in the world. So for their work, they use earned really, really well. It helps amplify their clients' work, and it gives them a great way to be able to then reshare that on their own socials. Okay, so from their owned, obviously their website, says everything that they need to say, but it's optimized to the best possible way. You've got a call to action on pretty much everything they do. They share, they have a place specifically where they, and particularly on their socials, they're always talking about their culture and their team. And then they've got this really fantastic newsletter that doesn't actually sit as a blog, which is really interesting. It sits outside of that, but it definitely taps into those cultural moments. So, and same with that Happy Little Remake is just an example of, the impact of trying to get their campaigns on a larger, wider PR scale. Shared, so they use social really, really well. Very much Instagram is for people and culture, and I'll get to that in a second, and how you really need to think about, be a bit more single-minded about the channels that you use and how you use it also, so it's not so much work for you. that little example of their a little handwritten note by a child is really cute as well. So that sort of goes into their being a little bit different as well. And then some like key insights from one of their head thinkers, and another umbrella article as well there. Paid, it's hard to, so that's why I'm coming back to paid. I can't really, on my research, you can't go and quantify how many, what they do for search, but I can see what they do when it comes to sponsorships. And that's actually a really key thing for agencies, is sponsoring, and it really helps you in a crude sense of the way of jumping on the coattails of somebody else. It creates the amplification very easily. Your reach is doubled. It's a much more authentic and easy way to communicate, as long as you are actually giving back and there's something, you're not just slapping a logo on it. So for the example, which I think is brilliant, this was quite a while ago, back in 2020, and it was right on cue with COVID. Tinkerbell created an online course for brand experience with RMIT. I mean, that's just absolute gold. They are sponsors of the Marketing Academy and how they give back to that. And they're also recently sponsors of the Ehrenberg Bass Institute for Marketing Science. I had to make sure, I might be saying that incorrectly, Ehrenberg. Anyway, I don't want to sound like the Swedish chef from the Muppets, although he is quite funny. So that's an example of what they do for paid. And PR for agencies is the cornerstone. Now, these are all my examples because it's the best way that I could unpack that. But, I've only been out since, September, October last year on my own. And my key thing has been, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for PR. This is what PR is. It's having those earned, and then sharing. So reaching out to Sam and saying, I'd love to be able to work with your network, and how can I add value to you? And PR is really key. And I speak to a lot of media agencies, so often founders who, and I'm not saying you guys do, and not telling you how to suck eggs, but lots of them just don't even understand it, don't even understand how it works, what to do. And it is a little bit of a minefield. It's like, what do you have to pay for that? You usually have to pay a publicist, yes. So I don't in my example, because I have all those relationships, but if you don't, and it's 100% worthwhile having a publicist for that. And if you guys have attended, I think the other one was maybe before Sam, from the other in your growth series, or maybe it's a little bit later, but that's a PR focused one. And so I implore you to attend that. Has that been done already, Sam?
That's happening next week, next Wednesday with Third Avenue. And also, look, I just want to build on that as well for 1 second, and just say that I cannot emphasize that the fastest way to grow your agency is via promoting the PR. It's not a day that goes past where I don't talk about it to an agency, because winners want to be with winners. And if as communicators, as we all are, sometimes Kathleen, as I said to you, the builder's house is the worst house on the street. And we're all a little bit uncomfortable due to imposter syndrome or whatever we might have, to promoting ourselves through these channels. And it's the fastest way to grow it. And we've got, if you need contacts with the trade press to send it out, it'd probably take you 2 seconds to write a press release with the help of ChatGPT, and then we've got the contacts to help you. That's enough for me.
Good on you. Thank you. And feel free to jump in on any of this that needs a bit of backup. I appreciate that, Sam. Okay, so PR is the cornerstone. And then how do we do it? So this is why you're all here. So first of all, the best way to do it, if you haven't been doing it before, if you're mid-level, if you've never done it, but most of you are mid-level by the sound, is just draw a line in the sand. You've got all this, your backlog, what you've been doing in the past. You can't update every single thing online. You can't do it all at once. It is too impossible. It is too hard. You're too freaking busy. Draw a line in the sand. What are you going to start with first? And you do that one thing, and then it starts to build momentum. So I'm going to take you through how to do that. First of all, you need to look at your team structure. Who do you have internally that have the right skills that you could implore and KPI to be part of this? Now, to do that, you're going to have to give them time to do that. And on average, they say that I've got a friend of mine, spent, as I mentioned, 8 years in New Zealand, and a lead brand strategist, Gareth, O'Connor did a presentation recently, and he talks around how with B2B organizations, in which you are, you really should be dedicating anything from 20 to 30% on your own marketing. And it's not about, and particularly in agency land, it's not about being a differentiation. Which it is. I mean, because we're kind of all doing the same thing, but it's distinguish. How do you distinguish who you are, right? So you've got to find the right people in your team, and you've got to actually give them the time to do it. Now, if it doesn't, I'm going to give you some tips on how to fix that. So the ideal skills needed, and I'm telling you all how to suck eggs here, but it's design, which is graphic, and UX, UI, if you can internally with your website. Handwriting, you still need humans, right? AI is great, but you still need humans for storytelling and for proof points. AI is sometimes full of shit, as you know, and you just need to use AI to research and to finesse. Your data and analytics, you guys are a media agency, so I don't need to tell you this, but connecting the dots and creating those ongoing dashboards. If you just look at studio dashboards, you don't have to go too fancy. If you've got your CRM and you can set it up in there, great. But, just those quarterly reports are really key with monthly check-ins. Content planning, so content calendar planning and posting for socials, digital marketing, so anyone that could do email marketing, create landing pages, other CRM MarTech tools if you're really sophisticated. And most importantly, you need a publicist if you don't have one, or you can work with, as Sam mentioned, and if you're doing sporadically. But I would implore anyone here to put an investment in of getting a publicist for a couple of pitching opportunities a month. I think it's going to cost you less than $1,000 to do that. So anything, and it could be up to $2,000 if you want to have someone regularly, depending how big your agency is. Do you use a publicist, or do you do the media pitching myself? I've used me, but I have contacts in there already. And for some other things, I have used a publicist. So when I was at my old agency at Icon, we're a PR agency. We outsourced our PR. It was that important. And I can't give you numbers, but I can't stress to you how much that helped us grow. We went from 30 people to 100 people in a few years' time. So PR is key, and it really just helps build that momentum and growth. I have a great contact of a publicist that I can connect you with, and she specifically looks after the trades and has a lot of experience. Now, you might be a specialist agency in certain particular areas, and there might be certain other publications that work for you as well, and she can source those as well. So I do have great contacts for you. I'm a connector, but all of the above, of course, needs strategic direction. So is there someone project managing this? And you really need to dedicate. I implore you to identify people in your team who can do this and dedicate 10 to 30% of their time to do this marketing, which means you need to KPI them and you need to take them off the billable work to be able to do that. You've got to give them the time to do it, but as long as it's measured and you know how much it is. And I know that's a bit scary for people, but it is important. So this is this is where I'm going to take you on a bit of a framework of how this can work. So the key elements to any agency are, and that's why I'm putting this in order, is your case studies. You need to get your case studies in order. And I'm going to go by quick wins, what you need to do ongoing, and what a strategic approach is. So the very first thing you can do, you've drawn a line in the sand, right? We're starting tomorrow, and we're going to concentrate on our own brand. 10% of your time every day, just start to write a template for your case study. So use a template, create a template for the best unwritten campaign that you haven't got up there, and get it designed up and get it on your website first. The reason I say that get it on your website first is because then when you're sharing it anywhere else in social, or if you have a soft copy of case studies that you use in your creds deck or whatever, instead of having a cluttered soft copy on your PowerPoint. I've seen so many agency creds where I just start to like glaze over because it's just impact and this and 7 million impressions and blah blah blah. Like, ugh. And if you're think about who your audience is, customer centric, busy marketing B2B person, just needs the detail. If they're interested in that particular client or that particular sector, click on the link and they'll take you to your website where the full case study is there and you can explain that. So it's the best place for discovery. So start with one. It will look different to all the other ones you've got on there. That's okay. You can work back and you can finish those later. So that's the next ongoing bit. So once you've got that first one and you've built that out, systematically work through the backlog using your project boards, Asana, Monday, Trello, whatever it is that you use. Create a very simple list of case studies to be written, case studies to be designed for, PDF or soft copy and web. And then you just put them in the done basket and then you upload them. If you can do one of those a week, you're already winning. So just set really basic small goals for yourself to be able to do that. Once you've created a couple of those, you can create a social template and you can repurpose that. So that first great case study that you did, you can then turn that into a social tile, carousel, whatever works for you, and that can sit there and across, and you have to reduce it down, the copy and text, for example, but then you're resharing it on social and then it's linking back to the website. And then, of course, if you have that web version done, and you have an EDM, you can share it in your EDM. The strategic approach for that is ensure that every end of campaign report from your team includes a client-approved case study, client testimonial, and repurposed social version. That is part of every single campaign moving forward, that before you sign off and launch. So it becomes embedded into the team's KPIs, into their processes on what they need to do. It's not just about the client, it's about the work is a huge part, the most important part of how people discover you. So if you make that as part of if there's the one thing that you take out of today, that is it. Just get that as part of a process into your team, that they have to do that, and it's part of their job for every single campaign. For awards, it's a bit more hit and miss because it depends on what you want to enter, and there's a lot of work that you usually need to do up front to actually know what to enter. So if you've got any awards or nominations or whatever out there already, first thing you can do is just write a short blog about it. We got nominated for 3 awards and we're really excited for the nomination. It could be 100 words, whatever. If you have a blog, get it up there, then share that blog, share that on socials, and then drive that back to your website. For once again, for when they're on your website, then they can go into your case studies and they can see all the other bits and pieces you're doing. In my experience, and every time I've hotjarred an agency website and looked at a heat map, it's the case studies that are actually the most used. And you'll see that in your reporting and your analytics, that how often people are going to they go homepage, about, and the case studies. That's usually the process of where it's at. So ongoing, you need to write an awards plan. And that's quite a bit of work going in there. So you could just do that gradually, but look 3 months in advance ahead. Usually they're not announced for, they usually come up at the same time every year, but trying to go too far ahead, you're just going to get stuck. Just go, and I know this from experience doing this with a client recently, just look 3 months in advance and see what's coming up. Use your project board to say things that you'd like to enter. You create a long list and then you pull that down to a short list, because you can't do everything, and you need to to add all the different bits and pieces of the assets that you need to create that and the right dates. Create an awards page or blog filter, and if it's too hard, just outsource that bit, because it is quite time consuming to look at strategically what you want to enter, why, all the assets that you need, and then get some timing for that. Often what you'll find is when you want to enter something, you actually haven't got the assets you needed in the first place. So the strategic approach for that is when you're planning every single campaign, have a case study, show reel or video for that campaign, particularly if you know it's going to be a shit hot campaign and you think this is going to be a winner. When you're writing the scope of work out or getting sign off from the client, add in another $2,000 and talk to them very transparently about it. I know you can't always do that, but just say, we think that this is going to be award-winning. It's going to be great for you to amplify your brand or this campaign. And I think we need to put a buffer in to create a show reel. Give them an example of really good show reels that you've seen for campaigns. They're usually no more than 90 seconds for awards. They're pretty much, you can't win an award these days without a video 9 times out of 10, which is a bit of a punish, but it's just the way it is. So if you get that sign off at the beginning of every campaign, you've got that buffer. So when it comes around to actually creating it, clients on board, they're going to be pushing it and wanting that to happen. And secondly, you're just not costing you any extra. So PR. So any team news or campaign launches can be pitched out to trades or as a one-off. So start small if you haven't done it before. All of their email addresses are at the bottom of the, if you go to Ad News, B&T, any of them, they're all like, send all of your press releases into this address. And hopefully I've got no journos on here from the trades, but they need you as much as we need them, okay? They're busy. They're trying to do a million things at once, and they rely on these releases. They rely on this information. So it's really important. Yeah, Sam's giving me a bit of a heads up. It's a two-way street. So send off your first one. Go, Sam. What were you going to say?
I was going to echo those points. They need to fill their pages, and for better or worse, the indies are the darling of the industry at the moment, and they want to hear from you guys. And if they don't get published, just give them a little gentle reminder about their audience. But yeah, if you need any advice and help, we're always here to help and support. But they need to it. 9 times out of 10, Kathleen, they will just cut and paste and just throw it in there to fill their pages up.
Yeah. And it's not because they're lazy, it's because they're freaking busy, but it helps them, right? So, and you guys would know and understand that. So yeah, from there, every press release becomes, it's what I call easy content, because instead of creating, and we know that the algorithms love videos and reels and all those other bits and pieces, but it's just so easy to then take that, repurpose it, put it on your blog. So if you get something printed and published in Mumbrella, you can take that, you can publish that on your blog verbatim, but you just do the first 2 paragraphs, and you can just have, this was originally linked in Mumbrella, and put the link in, and it's on your blog. So when you share that on social, you're actually getting people to share and go back to your website, not out to Mumbrella. That's a bit of a hack, and it will really help you grow your organic traffic and help with that discovery, and then get them to take you, then get that audience to go to your case studies and other bits and pieces. So one other thing, if you can take away from that, that's a bit of a hack and an efficient way. And it's also just content that's easy. You're not having to do high quality production video. It gets a bit overwhelming, like, who am I going to do this? Who's am I going to get to do this? Just get a press release out there, make you famous, and then reshare it real easy. You should review that thought leadership strategy. So what do you want to be known for? Back up to what I took you through with my brand. I want to be known as being a connector, having adaptable expertise, and being really pragmatic, and just getting on with shit, basically getting it done, and doing it in a way that that actually drives impact. So what do you want to be known for? It's not necessarily those content pillars, and that thought leadership isn't about, I do awards. Everyone knows I do awards, right? So, and award strategy, but what is it that it's about that? Okay, so really have a think about that. And if you need anyone to help workshop that with you, I'm sure Sam has other people, and so do I. And then there's that other key piece, which is, oh God, have I jumped through? Oh no, I have gone. Sorry, I just thought that I jumped too far ahead. But engaging that publicist to help build that momentum, creating thought leadership opportunities, and help with the writing, and then measure that share of voice. So a publicist will help you measure, like, so okay, you've gone and you've never really done anything in PR before. What's your base? What's your share of voice versus and you give them like 5 competitors. usually come back with like, 2% share of voice. Your aim is to increase that share of voice. What are you trying to use so that you've got, when they do a scan, you can get all your mentions that you've gone up to 5 or 6 or 15 or whatever it is. So an increased share of voice is the measurement that you want to get to. But publicists will also help you with the writing, despite the fact that you can still use AI, etc. Okay, so quick wins and strategy around social. And also just remember with this, always coming back to the other 3 key pillars around the work, culture, and community. So all of these things ladder up to that. So with social, be more single-minded. The amount of, it absolutely drives me insane, the amount of agency websites I go to and they go, we've got X and TikTok and LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and Blue Sky. And it's just like, and then you click on them, either the link's broken, they've never posted anything on X in their life. Facebook, the last thing they did was talk to their mum. There's no point in having all of these channels. It does more damage to your brand to have all of these different channels than it does just to narrow it down. And it's less work. You're creating a rod for your back if you try and do all things. Now, your agency might be one that's specifically good with influencer or, consumer e-com brands, and you need TikTok. Great. But maybe that's where you're resharing your clients' work. It's too hard to jump on trends. It's too hard to, who's going to do all that? And then if you just give it to the juniors in there, they're just going to waste time on, having fun on TikTok. And that's not ideal either. So think about what you can use TikTok for. Maybe it's just a reshare of your client's work. Okay. But LinkedIn and Instagram are your 2 channels. And then be really creative within those channels. And I'll get to that in the ongoing bit. So repurpose any old content. If you've got anything old, you don't have to it's not about throwing the baby out with the bathwater, right? So if you've got something that you need to repurpose, that's a real quick one on social, just repurpose it. You've got an old blog, turn that into social, just a couple of carousels and use Canva, and I'll get to tools and what you can use for it, just to quickly pull that together in your brand colors and a couple of key insights. Like there's some really, have a look around and you'll see that there's some really easy ways to do that. Client work, testimonials, that's really, really quick, easy. When you've got a testimonial from a client, get a quote like I did with Fiona, put that on a social tile and then get that posted. I mean, these are really basic, easy ways to do to make the most of social. Back to design fit for purpose on separate channels. So you've got Instagram, for example, you've got reels and stories and your posts. If you've got three different offices, one in Sydney, one in Melbourne, and one in Brisbane, or one in Perth or Adelaide, and you want to show some local knowledge, you could use the different. You could either use the different stories to show local content while you keep your feed clean. So you can post things that are kind of more brand centric or bigger campaigns, but use the stories to call out anything from your Adelaide office, call out anything from your Brisbane office, whatever. So just be mindful of how you use it and use it effectively instead of just having a lot of clutter. I would also use Instagram really just for people, for awards, and for anything designy and cool, and then use LinkedIn for more of your thought leadership insights. There will be crossover. You decide what works for you, but that would be my recommendation. And remember, this is a B2B audience, as I sort of harp on about a bit. Like, you're not talking to consumers. It's not about just doing fun things. And, it's kind of just like, it still needs to be interactive. It needs to be creative. Doesn't boring, like, the amount of like toxic positivity and boring on LinkedIn is kind of like inane. But because as people are just using ChatGPT or whatever too much, you can just tell it sounds awful. Like, be yourself. It's a B2B audience. Real IRL is such a currency right now. Keep it real and it will shine through, I guarantee. I don't guarantee many things. No, I do. Okay, so a strategic approach. So quarterly competitor review. So it really helps. Like I just took you through with Thinkerbell. Do that once a quarter. Get one of your juniors to do a bit of a, and it could be a bit of a fun thing if there's any downtime. Have a look at your top 5 competitors. What are they doing? How are they using it? What's your, even if it's not a competitor, what's your, aspiration brand from overseas, and how are they doing things? That's where you're going to learn what to do or what not to do as well, because some of them are awful and you're like, oh, I want to do that. Or, you know, it's more just about making sure you're not sounding like everyone else as well. Analyze and optimize monthly. I mean, that's a bit of a no-brainer. You guys do this for a living, you know that, but it's really like cobblers, children have no shoes, plumbers have leaky taps. Your most important brand is your own, and the most important client is yourself. So make sure you are jumping on and having a look at your own results. And then you can start to use paid a little bit more on social for things like thought leadership, on LinkedIn. So if you're wanting to promote a podcast that you've done, you could do a bit of a thought leadership video and use the thought leadership objective, and you'll find that you get some really, really good results. You can obviously be really highly targeted. I don't need to tell you how to do all that sort of stuff, but don't worry about paid and sophistication on social until you've got the basics right and organic, to be really frank. Digital marketing, first and foremost, optimize your website is one of the key things you can do. Just put your CTA up higher. Make sure that you don't have to scroll all the way to the bottom of the page. Make sure everything's easily found. That's going to be, the most important thing. Make sure your keywords working. If you don't know what that is, get an SEO audit done. You've probably got if you don't have that in-house already, you've probably got relationships with other SEO specific agencies. Do some contra work, say that you do some of their media stuff for them, and they'll do if they do an SEO report. There's a million ways to skin the cat, or just pay for it, right? It's really important that you get that audit done. Find out if there's any technical issues, and if not, just at least do the on-page optimizations. So the ongoing part is to action those recommendations, but most importantly, that will take time. So you're just going to have to tick those off once a week. Just do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Create that dashboard and set those Digi objectives. So do you want to grow your organic traffic? Yes. Most importantly, you do. Do you want to increase that engagement time and your bounce rate? Do you want to get more referrals? So you need to optimize your Clutch and those other referral channels. So all of those bits and pieces are in that ongoing that you just do regularly as you can. And then, of course, there's email marketing if you're sophisticated enough to do that. Some people do it like every week, every 2 weeks, if you haven't started off and haven't done it before and you don't have a blog, bi-monthly is fine, unless you've got something important to say, but it is a really good opportunity to increase some of those subscribers. You can use your social to try and get those subscribers across. Use that thought leadership once you're sophisticated enough on, to link straight back through to subscribe to your email marketing. And then, of course, if you haven't already got a CRM, link your CRM, create some of those personas. That's some, grunty brand work that you need to do on who your clients are, those sectors. You might need help from a brand expert or, someone else to come in and help you with that if you can't do it yourself, because it is sometimes it's really hard to think about that sort of stuff yourself. And if you have the opportunity to do a full content audit and create a content framework guided by your buyer journey and split by sector, that's a lot of work. But it's that December, after the Christmas party and in between the 29th of January, you got the time then, right? You've got the time then to sit there and do an audit. And it could just be going back the last 12 months. What have we done? Have that, and I've got some great tools and frameworks. If you want, you can reach out to me on how to do that. But it's just a really good way to see what you've got, and you might be like, oh, I really want to win in tourism. This is actually where our specialty is, but I've got no insights or blogs on tourism, and it will show you when you do that audit. Oh, okay, well then that's what I need to create, or I've got so many of this stuff, and I can just repurpose that and use that on social. So whatever you create, it's all about slicing and dicing that across everywhere. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Industry-wise, send your team to industry. So from a quick win perspective, send your team to industry events and attend yourself. Real easy. You don't have to create your own. You don't have to. There's so much going on out there. Meetups. I went to Creative Natives event recently, and I learned a hell of a lot from that. There was a marketing forum last night. They don't have to be the super spenny 300, umbrella 360 for $2,000 a ticket. There's lots of little bits and pieces going on in each and every city that you can engage with. Obviously, here's one of them. And you can attend, sorry, I've probably gone over time a bit, haven't I? You can attend. Attendance means a blog. So So do a blog after every single one, and then pull together some insights. Sponsor events or partner someone with someone else to share those insights. So if you sponsor events and then you go along to anything, once again, what are the insights? What did you learn? It's not just, I went to an event and here's me at the thing and here's a pretty picture of us having a drink. What did you learn? People want to know why. They want to know who you are, why, and what's actually important. And then you can create your own thought leadership or cultural events, but only once you have a CRM to use as a lead gen tool. So I just realized I've gone way over time. So I'm just going to quickly run through this. So month one, set up your strategy and foundation, set up templates, SEO and content audit, content pillars, analytics and dashboard, establish a customer acquisition cost if you haven't already. Month two, get that content calendar in, implement some of those SEO recommendations, awards planning, engage PR, set team KPIs. Month three, refinement and future planning, action, data-led insights, optimize the CRM and digital marketing channels, and repurpose any of that content. Common pitfalls and solutions are simply just consistency challenges. We all run around like headless chooks sometimes. So it's really just about stop, collaborate, and listen. Ice is back with his brand new invention. You've just got to do it once a week. You've got to stop. And you've got to go, right, what's our goal for this week? Be pragmatic, do the first one, the first thing that's coming up, go back to your case studies, go back to basics. The tools and implementation hacks, project management, you know it. We've got Asana, Trello, Slack, blah, 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 blah. So thank you, Melissa, you're welcome. HubSpot for your CRM Monday. I personally am a HubSpot fan. I've used that. It's a bit complicated to start with, but once you get your head around it, I use on the daily Claude, ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Gemini. And creative delivery is, TikTok, Vimeo, CapCut. You don't have to go into full creative, production, creative agency mode. You can just do shit yourself. So that is it. Any questions? I realize I've gone way over time.
Kathleen, sometimes and so often that there aren't questions within this forum.
Yes, but that's right.
Can you tell us how the members can engage with you if they want more information or consulting or your expertise?
Yes, 100%. So you can reach out to me I have a website or just find me on LinkedIn. I will quickly put that in here. So it's Gunther Consulting in the chat. And maybe you can send it out at the end, samconsulting.com, so you can see what I do. And otherwise, you can find me, Kathleen Gunther, on LinkedIn. And
we'll share this. We'll share this recording and this and your details post the meeting later on this afternoon.
Oh yes, and I just realised oh gosh, hang on, you've gone away. I just realised that it is in this presentation. It's in there. There you go. There's my there is my email address as well at the end.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Fantastic. Can I just say thank you so much? I think that's probably the most concise and best presentation I have ever seen on how to grow an agency. That is everything that I have seen across the industry in the last 5 years of all the success. I think it's bloody fantastic. And I think you really summed it up in what could have been a 7-hour or 8-week presentation into an hour. So thank you so much for sharing your insights with that. As I said before, like, the fastest way to grow your agency is via these channels, and sometimes, we are the cobbler's partner wears no shoes. We are very, very bad at communicating ourselves, and this is just such a good way of succinctly telling our sector how to do it. So thank you so much. One of the best presentations I've seen in a very, very long time.
Thanks, Sam. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I was very passionate about it. I love what I do. I have a couple of agency clients at the moment, a PR agency and a branding agency. I don't have any media agencies, so if anyone wants it, I'm ready. There's no conflict. So come and talk to me, and I can just help with that strategic direction. And it's really about that adaptable expertise. Like, some people just need help with the strategy. Some people actually need help with, can you just do these case studies for me? It's like, I can do bits and pieces or connect you to the right person.
Yep. And you can work with any agency around the country. You're based in Melbourne, but you can do
I'm
work
based
with anyone.
in Melbourne. Yeah, the one I've got a very large PR agency that have 5 offices around Australia. So I just work with. I go into their Melbourne office. I have a Sydney client, so I go into and I'm up in Sydney a few bits and pieces. But I don't think anything limits us with video sharing these days. So happy to talk to anyone.
Amazing. Well done. Well, thank you so much again. Possibly one of the best playbooks I have ever seen, kind of doing everything that we believe in and see for success. So thank you so much for your support. We'll share this this presentation with everyone around the group and your details as well. And we'll talk soon, Kathleen. Thank you so much again.
Thank you so much. Thanks, guys. And thanks, Nikki and Beck. Good on you guys.
Thanks, members. Talk soon.
Bye.
And next week, it's